It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5. It's a Friends Friday, and I bring in my longtime friend, Karen Fonda. How are you, young lady?
I'm doing great. It's so wonderful to see you. I can't tell you. I'm trying to remember the last time I was here.
It's been a while, hasn't it? In this room.
In this room. This is where I got my radio start.
Got your chops here or whatever, as they say.
Right out of college.
Really?
Right out of college.
Did you work at Rev, or was there KTSC a little bit there, and then you came here?
Yes, I was at the college radio station playing Bruce Springsteen on the turntable.
Uh-huh.
I got a call if I wanted to get a part-time job.
Right.
I thought I'd hit the big time.
You did.
Well, it was just such an honor and a shock, right? To even have the opportunity when I look back at that. But that really launched, I worked in radio in some fashion for 3 decades plus.
Really? That long?
3 decades plus.
Well, you started out, you're from Pueblo, right?
I'm born and raised here, went to Pueblo County High School.
That's what I thought, yeah.
And I'm back.
And you're back now for good, you think?
I moved back, and I love it. You know, when you're young, you go out and see the world.
Can't wait to get out of Pueblo.
And, I still have so many friends here, right? So yeah, I bought a house. I came back. I see a lot of my old friends from high school and have reconnected with them. And but yeah, I worked here right out of, from the college days.
From KTSC to right here?
I don't want to date myself, but let's see when that would have been. In mid-'80s?
Wow. I was going to say 87, something like that maybe. I
think I I worked here for a while. It was my last year of college. And I worked here at the same time.
So, I got Mike Daniels to spill his guts. His first job was at McDonald's. Where was your first job?
Taco Casa.
Oh, really?
Out on the Mesa, which is still there.
23rd Lane there, yeah.
I worked there. That was my first job. And then a bunch of us in college, we worked at Taco Bell down on, it was in a different, I think it's a flower shop now.
Yeah, it was at 8th and Santa Fe. Yes, very good.
Yes. I worked there. But like I said, this was, I was a journalism major, which, I was spinning records, playing whatever I liked. And just that call came in and they were looking for somebody to work part-time. So
it all worked out.
I recently just saw Mike.
Oh, Mike Daniels,
yes,
He looks exactly the same.
He looks exactly. So do you, by the way.
Well, I don't think that, but Mike does look exactly the same.
He does. He is just. I saw him. We met up and caught up too, and I mean, he does. I see him on the news all the time,
right?
And then it was right around the time of the state fair, but so great to catch up with him because, we all did a lot of fun stuff together.
Absolutely. Radio was so much fun back in those days, actually.
We all, you, myself, Mike, a lot of our friends that worked here really got to work in radio in its heyday.
In its heyday, yeah.
And for people that don't understand what that was like, I mean, now it's very much consolidation.
Right, oh yeah.
No free concert tickets.
Very few, if there is.
We had a ball.
Yeah, yeah. I always tell people in this building right here, at 10 o'clock in the morning, there were like 35 people in this building in those days. Now there's 2.
Really?
Now there's 2.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I remember you and who was the other person?
Oh, we have a salesperson here.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I used to work here I remember in radio, you worked holidays, right?
Right.
I would work Christmas. And I'd be up in one of the production rooms.
Uh-huh.
And at that time, for anybody young listening, we actually played records.
Right.
Where you'd have to queue up the record. Mm-hmm. And then when it was time to go, it went live on the air. My parents were driving to Denver, right, for Christmas. I'm working the holiday. And I'm queuing up a record. And at that time, J. Ralph Carter was still here, right?
Right,
remember?
right.
So Jack was still here. And I was queuing up the record. And when you queue up a record, it makes this awful noise.
Yeah.
It doesn't go over the air, or it's not supposed to.
Not supposed to, yes.
But there was something amiss in the production room. So it was going over the air. So my parents were driving to Denver, and my mom's like, Arden, I think something's wrong.
And there was no cell phones. They couldn't call you on the cell phone.
I heard about it later, right? From the rest of the employees. But, back then, it was so different. So it's real nice to be back here and
this
get this
building.
Opportunity. Thank you for asking me.
Can you hang out for a little while?
Of course.
All right. Karen Fonda in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5. Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5. It's a Friends Friday, and my friend, longtime friend, Karen Fonda in here. Karen, it's so good to see you. You haven't changed a bit, as I mentioned a bit ago.
Well, thank you so much. I said the same about you. I ran into you
here. But you're a liar, though. So that's the difference between you and me.
It's hard to believe it was that long ago, right?
Yeah.
Of all these years.
Yeah.
Being back in the building, everything kind of looks the same. It brings back all these memories of the first time I pushed a button and said my first words on the radio.
Do you remember your first song?
It was Johnny Lee, Looking for Love.
In all the wrong places.
In all the wrong places, which maybe was the story of my life, a prelude to the story of my life.
Yeah, who knew?
But no, working here, and I'm trying to think of the year I came back and worked with you and
that was
Wally.
mid 90s, I think, when all that happened. Yeah, I think
we had so much fun in this building.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you were at CSU Pueblo, or was it USC at that time?
It was USC at the time.
So Lee Douglas was one of your instructors, right?
Lee was my journalism, my news writing teacher. I credit Lee to helping me get where I was in radio, because I started as a DJ, right?
Uh-huh.
But really the latter part of my career I spent as a news anchor, right? I spent quite a few years in Denver working for iHeart.
Yeah, at KOA and different places there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was all thanks to Lee. Lee was such a great teacher.
Absolutely.
And I miss him. That was a great loss to us as radio community and
to the whole community. Actually.
Yeah, what a great guy. I was very sad when that happened to Lee. But God, I look back at the fun we had.
Absolutely.
With Lee. Were you on? You didn't join us for that big Boss Bus tour, did you?
No. I remember him telling me about that though.
Yeah, we all rented a Winnebago. And just so people are not going to say this wasn't politically correct with our teacher, I maybe was not in class then. I remember we all spent the night down at Independent Records and Tapes.
Okay, to get the tickets, right?
All the guys, and maybe I shouldn't name names here and get people in trouble, said, if you girls spend, and I was in college then, if you girls spend the night and get the Bruce Springsteen tickets, we'll pay for them and we'll get the big Winnebago and we'll all go see him up at Mile High Stadium.
So they pay for your tickets and take you there.
Yeah, we spent the night in the parking lot, got the tickets, went to class. When you're young, you can stay up the whole day.
Right.
And then we all got in the Boss Bus, we called it, and went to the Bruce Springsteen show. And Lee, at that time, his girlfriend was the driver.
I was just going to ask you, hopefully Lee wasn't the driver, because he was horrible at that.
No, but what a great time and great memories. I think I also went and saw, was it Hank and Lee? Remember Hank?
Oh, of course, yeah.
We, in this big pink Cadillac.
Uh-huh.
They all came up to Denver, and Wally, they had an extra ticket to see Paul McCartney.
Right. I remember hearing about that.
And said, hey, we got this ticket. Do you want to meet us? And that time I lived in Denver.
Right.
But looking back, these are long-term friendships we all had.
Absolutely.
It wasn't like you just worked with someone.
It was like family. Everybody was like family back in those days, yeah.
And I still feel that way. Just seeing you, it's just like yesterday. It isn't like all these decades have gone by.
Right. And that's kind of how Pueblo is anyway, you know it?
Yeah, it
is. In reality.
I love it. I love what they've done. I love some of the, the developments down here.
Right, the Riverwalk and some of those.
The Riverwalk is spectacular in Union Avenue. One of my best friends from high school has a store, a nice little boutique down on Union.
Uh-huh.
So it's, like I said, it's nice to be back. I like spending a lot of time outside. We have, 35 miles of
bike trails and stuff, yeah.
I ride a lot. I bought a kayak, so.
Really?
Doing the reservoir thing. And
look at you.
And so, so I'm having fun.
There you go. Well, we're going to talk some more about some of that. Karen Fonda in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5 on a Friends Friday. My friend in today, Karen Fonda, longtime Puebloan, lifelong Puebloan. But you left for a little while. As you mentioned a bit ago, you did some radio in Denver at our big flagship station, KOA, and some things like that, right?
I did. So from Pueblo, I worked in the Springs for a while.
Right.
Then I went to Denver. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. I was very fortunate. I spent most of my time in Denver, but spent a little time in Milwaukee. That was an experience. Phoenix for quite a while. San Diego. So
and this was all following the radio career?
All radio, yeah, all in some fashion. So I look back at like probably in my 20s, it was all being, a DJ. I kind of look at like I didn't have a job. I was just getting paid to do these.
Have a good time, yeah.
That's what we did. I mean, gosh, we got to go to all these amazing it really wasn't a job.
No.
It was just a good time. It was fun. I did some news. I did quite a bit of news. The latter part was news. I flew around and did airborne traffic.
I remember that. I forgot about that, but I remember that now.
In Denver,
so were you really in the helicopter doing that?
I was in an airplane twice a day.
Oh, really?
I flew with Dick Dillon, who was, I don't know if you've heard the name, but he was very well known in Denver. We flew a fixed wing, and I will tell you this, how I got that job. I think I was working part-time. You know how ratings, you're at the mercy of the ratings.
Right.
So they were replacing me. I was a morning show host, I think with Dave Otto at the time, possibly. And they're like, well, we're replacing you. But we have this
and it goes that quick, too.
It's that quick. We have this other job. If it doesn't pay anything, but the gal that was flying around doing traffic can't anymore. If you want to do it, I mean, it paid nothing.
Literally nothing, or just not big wages?
Very little wages.
It did pay something, though.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got to keep health insurance. And I was like, well, what else? I'm not doing anything else. I'll go do it.
Right.
I think I ended up doing that for a couple years, and it was fun, right? I wouldn't go up in an airplane twice a day with just anybody. I mean, there was some stories. And I always was like, if Dick ever retires, I'm done. But
I got you.
We just flew in a tiny little Cessna 162, but it was great because that was when DIA was being built.
Right, so you could see all of that.
We would fly out there and watch the development of DIA. We would fly over the Colorado Rockies games and just hover, go in circles.
Looked like in slow motion. Wow.
You could see the little players from where we were. I don't remember how high we were. So, yeah, I really feel fortunate that I got to kind of do little bits. I just wasn't one thing in radio.
Not many people can say that, that's for sure.
Lots of great experiences.
Wow. And you fly over Mile High. You do all this stuff.
All that stuff. I mean, I knew.
So you did that mornings? You just flew around all morning?
Morning
and
afternoon.
You just flew around? You didn't land and back and forth?
No, we did. So I'd be at the airport. So we flew out of Centennial Airport. And we'd be in the air by 6:20, fly for a couple hours, land. I'd go home, go to the gym, eat, whatever, and back at the airport at 3 p.m. and fly for, afternoon rush.
Wow.
And, at that time I was doing it because I remember specifically the Avalanche, right? It was right when the Avalanche were making their push for the first Stanley Cup, right? To bring their first championship to Colorado. And I was flying around, I was doing the traffic, and I was also a partner on the afternoon show. So again, it turned into something fun. It was just unexpected.
And that's what's changed. Now it's a kind of a job,
It is, and there's not that many jobs. I look at so many of my friends that, have had to recreate themselves.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not in radio anymore. I've probably been through two other careers, and I had to make a career change. And it isn't easy.
No, it's definitely changed. It used to be when I started, you physically had to have somebody, and when you started too, you physically had to have somebody, as you mentioned, working Christmas and that, 24/7, somebody had to be in the building working the radio station. That's not the case anymore. And it's not just radio. TV's the same way. And, everything's that way now.
Well, and everything's on demand, right?
Exactly.
I mean, all the streaming channels, what do I want to listen to on the radio, or at what time do I want to listen to it?
Yeah, everything has changed.
But we were talking off air, and it's like you've managed to have all, really like add all these new dimensions to your career.
Somehow I've stayed in it. I don't know.
But that's a testament to the longevity of some people who've been able to continue to do that.
It might just be the Jingle Bell Rock that's kept me in it all these years. I don't know.
Thought about that last year when I came back, and I was like, I got to start listening to Nick and try to find that darn Jingle Bell Rock.
I need the money.
I think it just would be fun to try to find it.
You got to think there's only a handful of people that have ever found it.
Really?
Well, yeah, we've been doing it for 52 years or whatever. There's really only been 52 people that have ever found it.
Well.
So you could be one of 53 or however many. I don't even know. I'll have to sit down and think how many years it was.
That's such a fun tradition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I looked for it before I ever worked. I looked for it when I was 13 years old.
Really?
Yes.
It's a great tradition.
Absolutely. There you go. Karen Fonda in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHD 95.5. Karen Fonda in here on a Friends Friday, back in Pueblo, moved back here. You own a house here, right?
I did, yeah. I spent quite a bit of time in California and really wanted to buy a house. I knew it wasn't happening there.
So what were you doing in California?
So I had switched careers. So I had moved in software back into technology. So that's what I was doing out there. But as we all know, it's very difficult.
California, man.
But I missed everybody here. I missed my friends, not only in Pueblo, but in Denver. And I missed Colorado in general.
Right.
So I really feel fortunate. Yeah, I came back last June. And gosh, it's great to run into so many people, right? Because it fits like a glove, right, when you move back or you come back. I'm in a different, I guess, stage of my life where everything's different, right? So it's fine. There's so much fun to do. Things to do.
See, that's the thing. I never left Pueblo. I've been in Pueblo this whole time, so I never left. I mean, not like I never went on vacation or I'm not doing this street rod thing and all that, but I never left and moved somewhere else and then moved back. But everybody I know that moved back says kind of the same thing you do. It's like, this is where I was supposed to be. You know?
It just feels like a perfect fit. And there's so many nice things about Pueblo that, I mean, I enjoyed it, obviously, in high school, and I had such a great time. You know, everything was fun.
Lee Douglas used to tell me stories about how much fun.
Let's hope you don't remember a lot of those. But yeah, we had such a good time, right, going in college. And, you know, I think it is curiosity when you move around and, you know, you have different experiences when you leave.
Right.
And then when you come back. To run into a lot of the same people and kind of catch up over the last 30 years what they've been doing and seeing a lot of things in the city change, some for the good. You know, it's very interesting.
some for the not so good.
Some for the not so good that you hope can kind of get straightened around. But, you know, I think there's a lot of growth here. There's a lot of potential for a lot of new things still to happen.
I think there's a lot of things on the horizon coming very quickly, too. So it's probably a good time for you to buy a house here and come back.
And like I said, I love it. I went skiing last year. That was interesting. I'm trying to think of the last time, you know, I kind of traded the beach for the mountains again. And I went skiing and I went up to Monarch. Gosh, we used to go in high school quite a bit and have a great time. The altitude bothered me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Who would have thought? You know, I grew up here and I spent a lot of time skiing. But yeah, I really had a hard time with the altitude when I
never thought about, well, obviously because I never left, but I never thought about that.
So yeah, it was a surprise to me. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like this year to see if I've acclimated a bit more. Probably
because you're at 4,600 feet all the time now.
Yeah, but going to, you know, because I really was a flatlander.
Right, from zero to
the better part of a decade.
10,000, yeah.
Yeah, because I think the base of Monarch is right around 10,700.
I think so, yeah, something like that, yeah.
So I was good until I tried to hike up to the lift, and I almost passed out.
Ooh.
So that was a new one, but it's so pretty. Like, I love skiing here. I just think the mountains are awesome, the lakes, the parks.
It's Colorado.
Yeah, I think we have something special here.
Absolutely. Don't say it too loud because too many of you Californians are moving here the way it is.
Oh, yes. Well, I hope I don't get labeled a Californian. I have lots of friends still out there.
You were longer here than you were in California.
Much longer.
Though. Yeah. Karen Fonda in on a Friends Friday on KPHD 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5 on a Friends Friday. My friend in today, longtime friend Karen Fonda, back here in Pueblo, back here in the studio where you kind of got your start. And thank you for coming in. I appreciate that. But you know, the good thing about Facebook, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad about Facebook. But the good about Facebook is you can kind of stay in touch with people. And so I saw you were out in California and like an artist or something? Were you doing that in California or was that?
I had started, and thank you for inviting me to be on Friends Friday too. I'm so happy to be here. I actually started art. My aunt was a pretty prominent artist in New York. I think when I was in Phoenix, probably in my 30s, I messed around with it a little bit and it didn't really, you know, materialize too much. But probably about 10 years ago, I was kind of just looking for some other outlets,
right?
Hobbies. And I just started kind of messing around and it kind of grew from there, right? That it became a pretty significant hobby of mine. So
were you able to sell some stuff?
Yes,
really?
I've sold some things. I mean, I will say that I don't paint to sell my work. If somebody likes it and they want to buy it, great, because it puts too much pressure.
I'll bet, yeah.
And then it becomes, because I'm pretty much a perfectionist. So it puts too much pressure because you want to have it absolutely right because somebody's paying you money for it. So the enjoyment, that makes it hard. You feel obligated. So I paint in my spare time just as an outlet because I can be high strung at times. So it's a really...
You?
Moi. That's how it started. I kind of needed an outlet for that energy. And it grew, right? It's funny because I look back at some of my original work that I thought might have been okay. And it's awful.
It's kind of like going back listening to those old air checks.
And you're like, oh my God, man. I thought I did a good job. But yeah.
I should have quit back then.
Quit while I was ahead. Yeah. But yeah, I'll look at some. But the nice thing is I can look at the progress I made over the past 10 years from when I started. Because I really didn't have lessons, right? It was just all trial and error.
Right.
And then once you kind of are in the community, the art community, then you meet other artists and you learn technique and
some ideas and different things.
Yeah,
wow.
I actually was a part of the arts group here in Pueblo down on Civic Center Drive. I was down there for a while and met some artists. And
so what do you paint or what do you draw?
Well, when I was in California, a lot of beach.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah.
So when I came back to Colorado,
doesn't make much sense to do beach scenes here in Colorado.
No, so you kind of have to expand your horizons. I did quite a bit of pet paintings as well. But somebody actually commissioned a piece of work when I had gone skiing at Monarch. So that was a challenge, right? To paint snow. Like I think if you and I were to walk and see a picture of the mountain, you think, well, that's just a bunch of white. Right. It isn't how you paint snow. It's completely different. So that was I had to learn how to paint snow.
Yeah, I would have thought just use some white.
With some white and some shadows in there. No, it's kind of the other way around. So yeah, I just if we go kayaking, I usually paint from pictures.
I was gonna say, do you take a picture so you got something?
I do. I'm not the type of artist that's that brilliant to create out of thin air. I have plenty of friends who are. I'm not one of them. So I kind of take a picture and have to look from the picture and paint, which was similar to what my
So can I expect a portrait of me when we're done here?
A portrait of you right behind there with the microphone. Painting people is like
that's a whole different game,
difficult.
I would think. Sure.
It's really difficult. So when I see these artists that are so good at that, it's really special.
Absolutely. Well, that's interesting to go from here to there.
It's fun. And I think as you do move through life, you try things that you probably never would have when you were younger. But I've met Pueblo has a really great art community and a lot of great artists. So if you never get a chance to go out on First Friday or, down to the art place down off Santa Fe, I'm trying to think of the name, just it's nice to come out and see what Pueblo has to offer in the art world. And even on one of the First Fridays, I saw a lot of art from kids in school and to me, it's like really great if kids are already getting involved in being creative.
Right. Hopefully it keeps them channeled that way instead of some other ways.
You're right. And I think everybody has a little bit, I have friends who are like, I couldn't even draw a stick figure. I'm like, you'd really be surprised, right? Because art's in the eye of the beholder. You never know. I think everybody does have a creative side.
So when do I get to see one of your paintings? Or do you have them on Facebook?
I do have a website, but I feel like I don't want to do a shameless plug.
Might as well lay it out here. I'm asking for it.
Well, it's fondafineart.com.
Fondafineart.com. Like fond.
Like the Jane.
Not fond of.
Right, like Jane. Fondafineart.com.
Well, you said it enough times, didn't you?
I did. I took advantage. Nobody ever asked.
Absolutely. Karen Fonda in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5 on a Friends Friday. My friend in today, Karen Fonda. Fonda.
Fonda.
What do you say? What's your website again?
Oh, fondafineart.com.
FondaFineArts.com. Fine art or fine
art?
FineArt.com.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll have to check that out.
I have so many people ask me.
Do you do nudes?
Only of pets.
Okay. Good enough. There's a naked picture of your cat then.
Of a cat. Yeah. That's a funny story. Most people who know me know that I'm a dog person.
Because you used to have Great Danes, I remember, a long time
you were
ago.
when I had little Samson.
Yes.
When I worked here, and he must have been 8 weeks old when I used to bring him in here.
Yes, he was huge.
Well, he
even
grew,
at 8 weeks old.
He grew to be 180 pounds.
180.
182. I had to put him on a diet.
Wow.
And he wasn't fat.
Wow.
But it
Yeah,
just
he
wasn't.
was a big boy, you could tell. Yeah.
He was, that was a great dog. But most people know I'm a dog person. So being back, this is a funny story, being back here in Pueblo, we have a lot of neighborhood cats, right? And I'm very an outdoorsy, like working in the yard kind of person. So we have all these neighborhood cats.
They just roam around
that
everywhere.
They're out catting around, right? I don't know if people own them. So in the last several months, because I'm worried about them, all of us neighbors, not just me, we've had my brother built me a kitty house. I know nothing about cats. I had to watch documentaries. Okay. I don't know anything about them.
So you got a cat house is what you're saying.
I have a cat house. That doesn't sound quite right. I don't charge money.
Is that on your website too?
That's not on the website.
All right.
That's a whole different program.
Fonda's cat house. All right.
Yes. But so now I have become... I had one, right? And I was like, okay, I kind of feel sorry for him. I don't want him to die. And I'm allergic. I can't have him in the house.
Right.
Paws is overloaded, right?
With
their
way
kitties.
too many, yeah.
And so my brother, who lives here in town, he's a retired firefighter. I'm like, can you make me a kitty house for this so they can make it during the winter? So he makes this house and I insulate it. That thing's out. Next thing I know, I'm like, there's a black and white one in my yard. Then I have a golden white one in my yard. Now there's another light gray, and I'm like,
they're talking to each other. Yeah.
And I hadn't fed them at the time, right? Because I'm like, I don't want them all to tell all their friends.
Right.
You know, my sister-in-law says the word's out. There's a new diner over on the west side, right? So I say now I kind of caved because I'm like,
you're now a cat lady.
I have become the cat lady.
Wow. You know what I saw on the internet? What people use to make those cat houses are old coolers.
Yes.
And they got a hole in it, and the cats can go.
And they put straw in it.
Yeah.
They say don't put like blankets or hay even, but put straw.
Oh.
Because they get in and burrow in that, and you have an entrance on one side and an exit on the other, so they can kind of so predators don't get them. But funny enough, it's Wild Kingdom in my backyard. So between the cats, the squirrels, and I accidentally left the kitty food out. I had a raccoon the size of a dog in my backyard.
Hey, this lady over here is feeding everybody. You know?
But I thought, I'm like, it's not just me, because we walk around our neighborhood and several of the neighbors have either ordered them on Amazon and they all have kitty houses out to take care of them.
Really?
Because there's,
Now, if you still had Samson, you wouldn't have to worry about that, right?
He'd probably be afraid and hiding under a table.
Oh, would he? He was
a
that kind
big chicken. Yeah.
So the crazy cat lady, I would have never thought.
Nobody would have thought that I have somehow become the cat lady.
So any cats that are listening right now, hey, there's some good space over there on the west side where you can hole up for a while or whatever.
In the winter.
Karen Fonda in here on a Friends Friday on KPHD 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5 on a Friends Friday. One more time, my friend Karen Fonda in here. We've been friends for a long time. I knew you before I knew you through Lee Douglas, just the stories and stuff that FCC guidelines won't let us go any further into that kind of stuff. Yeah. But now, what do you do now?
As little
Besides
as possible.
hang out over here at the radio station, everyone, gosh, we haven't seen each other for a long time.
We haven't.
And to be honest, I saw you at Tommy Jidon's funeral.
Yes.
And that was not a good place to see people.
No, it wasn't.
It was terrible.
Lost a good friend there.
Absolutely.
So
what do you do now?
So I'm in software sales now.
That's what you were doing in California?
That's what I was doing in California. So I've been in technology sales, software sales now for probably the better part of 6 years. And the nice thing about it is, you can work remote in so many, like if I travel, but it's great to be remote. There's, not that the pandemic, we've all had to adjust, and a lot of things, came out of that all of us had to adjust to, but the ability to work remote, for a lot of these jobs, when I actually see now Elon Musk forcing everybody at Twitter to go back to work or lose their jobs, I kind of laugh, because when I was in Los Angeles doing sales, if I had one meeting, that's a 6-hour day,
driving across the
2
town.
hours to get to the meeting, 2 hours at the meeting, 2 hours to get back.
I never thought about that.
So if you think about, and not everywhere, right? I love being in Pueblo. If I have to go to 5 stores, I can go be in and home in 45 minutes.
Right.
But if you think about the productivity that people lose sitting in long commutes, and Denver's gotten really bad.
Even Colorado Springs has. Yeah.
Right. I think people have to look above and beyond, what it meant to work in an office. Now, I think you miss the camaraderie of being in an office and around people. But, if people are doing their jobs and, maybe I think you're probably getting more productivity, especially in some of these big cities.
Right.
I think it's a great option. And I'm really fortunate to have that because I could move back here, right? I mean, I have to go to the airport. So you still have
your job in California, basically, but
it's a different company, but yeah. So I fly out of, the Springs airport's great. I fly out of the Springs if I have to fly or go to Denver. For me to go to Denver is less than my sales commutes were in Los Angeles.
Wow.
So no big deal. I tell this story when I was in LA because I lived right next to LAX and I had to drop off a colleague who had flown in from Denver and I dropped him off at the Burbank airport. And I lived 25 miles from the Burbank airport. He was in Vegas before I even was home that night. So that was a 2.5-hour drive to get for 25 miles. So I think, like I said, it changed a lot of things, the pandemic and remote work, and I feel really lucky. Otherwise, I could not have moved back here.
I got you.
I'd have to live in Denver or LA or somewhere where I could just be flying.
Right.
So when I need to travel, I fly.
But a lot of times you don't need to travel.
No, not that I got tired of being on Zoom calls too.
Right.
I just had
Who hasn't? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just had a business trip last week, and it was in LA, and it was great to go out there and be around people again and see people at industry events because that didn't happen for so long.
Right.
But yeah, it was a career change, a big one from working in radio, which I was so young when I learned radio. It felt like
this is my life. Yeah.
So when you have to recreate yourself and get a new career, it was really a leap. I felt really out of my own element. It probably, I would say, for at least 2-3 years.
Wow. Well, obviously it sits good with you.
Well, I do the best I can. I think we all do.
Yeah, I think that's it. You just survive or whatever. So from Taco Bell to software sales. That's the story of Karen Fonda.
That's my story, and to be continued. But thank you for inviting me to be a guest.
No, thank you for coming in. Yeah, thank you for coming in. It's been fun, and
it has.
Hopefully we see each other more often than every once in a while, and at bad situations.
Yeah, and we'll see each other at fun things. Lots of fun things to do and see and be around here in Pueblo.
There you go. Karen Fonda in here on a Friends Friday. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
It's KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits.